Hello everyone! If you think every knight had cowardly manners, then this video is right for you. Stay tuned. Among the bravest French captains of 100 Years' War, the Gascon nobleman Etienne de Vigneulles, nicknamed La Hire, the High God, enjoyed the greatest popularity. He became very famous for his courage, rudeness, and extremely poor manners. The English who feared the hot-tempered and cocky knight called him nothing but the High God. La Hire's relationship with God himself was rather familiar. So, according to legend, he prayed like this: "Do for La Hire that you would like to La Hire do for you, if you were La Hire and La Hire Lord." For de Vigneulles, the war from the childhood was the commonplace. He began his career under command of Constable d'Armagnac. In 1415 he took part in the Battle of Agincourt, and in 1418 he entered the service of the King Charles. The first military feat committed by de Vigneulles is considered to be capture of a castle of Coucy from the Burgundians. Since then, his smug words became his motto: "I am not a king, not a prince, not a duke or a count, but I am the Lord de Coucy." In 1421, the Battle of Baget took place between English and the combined Franco-Scottish army. La Hire took part in this victorious battle for the French and Scots. In the same year, he broke his leg. It is not known whether the Lord punished him for his arrogance, but once when he was sleeping in an inn, a pipe fell on him. According to other sources, a beam. La Hire remained lame for life, but this did not prevent the fierce captain from leading his usual lifestyle of a dashing, grand and desperate adventurer. La Hire fought at Vermandois, Launois and Lorraine. In September 1427, with his help, the siege of Montargis was lifted, and in 1428, together with another famous knights, he came to the aid of a besieged Orleans. On February 3, 1429, he succeeded in overturning the English at the Bastide of Saint Laurent, but La Hire especially distinguished himself during the Battle of Herrings. On February 12, 1329, the worst enemy of a besieged city is hunger. Orleans was not an exception. From the scouts, the French learned that English wagon train had left occupied Paris. The wagon train consisted of about 300 carts, loaded mainly with the barrels of herring. Great land was approaching, and the soldiers were allowed to eat fish only, and with the arrows and other weapons. The convoy was guarded by about 1,500 men, but the French decided to make a sortie and recapture the convoy from the enemy. Dunois, John Stuart of Darnley, and Count of Clermont, who went to intercept the English, acted so stupidly and inconsistently that, having a threefold superiority in power, they failed the whole case. They did not manage to secretly get close to the wagon trains, and the English, who discovered their inept maneuvers, stopped the movement and made the wagon fort out of the carts, fortified it moreover with stakes. The French were confused and didn't know what to do. The Count of Clermont sent message to Dunois and John Stuart of Darnley with the orders not to attack until reinforcements arrived. The unknown author of Diary of a Siege of Orleans describes the result of a sortie as follows: "However, Dunois, the Constable of Scotland, and Lord de Marillac, without waiting for an order, struck the enemy bravely but unsuccessfully, for as soon as the English saw that reinforcements didn't rush for help and did not join the Constable troops and foot soldiers, they marched out of their fort and hit the French footmen, causing confusion and putting them to flight. Within a few minutes, the French lost about 400 men killed." La Hire and his corps-at-arms Paton de Zintrailles, seeing such a shameful retreat and swearing with the last word, gathered 60 soldiers and with a small detachment counterattacked the enemy so bravely and swiftly that many of English were killed. Thus, La Hire's intervention saved hundreds of French soldiers' lives, but the dream of Heron, of course, had to be abandoned. After the appointment of Jean d'Arc as a commander-in-chief of the army, La Hire becomes one of her most loyal companions. He fought bravely during the lifting of the siege of Orleans and later during the Loire operation. On April 21, 1329, the brave captain, along with the other military leaders, had the honor to escort Jean d'Arc from Blois to Orleans, and on April 29 they entered the besieged city with a food supply. Already on May 6, the Maid of Orleans and La Hire performed the joint military feat known from the words of Jean's quartermaster, Jean d'Aulon. While the French were returning from the Bastide of Saint-Jean-de-Blanc to go to the island Toile, the Maid and La Hire, both their horses, crossed by the boat from the other side of the island and having disembarked, jumped on their horses. Each had a spear in the hand, and when they saw the enemy was leaving the Bastide of the Augustines and was about to attack their people, Maid and La Hire, who were always in front of the army to protect it, immediately took their spears at the ready and rushed at the enemy, and then everybody followed their lead, began to crush the enemy and force him to retreat and return to Augustinian Bastide. The entire foreign military path of La Hire went hand in hand with Joan d'Arc. The Maid of Orleans had a tremendous influence of La Hire. He was among the first who recognized her, and he became her faithful companion, and even adopted her manner to swear upon his shaft. La Hire and Central, who commanded the vanguard of the French army at the Battle of Patay, were largely responsible for the victory in this battle. In 1330 he was captured by Burgundians, so he could not help Jeanne when she was executed in Rouen. How he himself ended up in captivity is unknown. However, Charles VII, who highly valued La Hire, bought him out and appointed him as a Captain General of Normandy. After returning from captivity, La Hire became famous for daring raids on Normandy occupied by the English. In 1435 the Battle of Gerberoy took place, in which the small French detachment led by La Hire and Paton de Central defeated the 3,000th English army. Etienne de Vigneulles bravely endured wounds, cold, hunger and epidemics, but in 1342, during the battle in the southwest near Montauban, La Hire was wounded, fell ill and soon died. Well, that's it for today's story. Like it if you do, subscribe if you don't want to miss more. Thank you very much. Bye bye.